And welcome to another episode of Wrestling Collector Zone. Today, what I have for you guys is a review. A review on the Monday Night Wars debate featuring Eric Bischoff and Bruce Pritchard with Chris Jericho as the host. And with this, I will say I was very happy with the way it turned out. The debate had happened, and they also had recorded it. RF Video had recorded it and produced it, put it out. But I know this had happened, I think, a couple years back during one of the wrestling weekends that they were doing. Can't remember what year it was, but it was, I want to say maybe 3 years back, something like that. But I could go both ways on this DVD. I'm going to say it was an amazing DVD. The only problem I had with it, which is such a little gripe that it's not even a big deal, is the simple fact of that the title of it, really. Monday Night Wars, alright, we know what we're getting. Debate, not even close. It's not anything of a debate at all. It's more of a sit down between Eric Bischoff and Bruce Pritchard in front of a crowd with Chris Jericho hosting it, kind of choosing which one to go back and forth and tell the story, like just narrating it. But it's more like a narrating of the early 90s leading up to the late 90s and right before WCW closed. Just telling the story, which I severely enjoyed. There was no debate at all. It's obvious, there's history in the books of what happened. There's obviously, we know who won the Monday Night Wars, which was WWF, now labeled WWE. It's overall just great because it gets you in one of those behind the scenes scenarios of situations where, for instance, when D-Generation X had rolled up on WCW Monday Nitro the one time, right around the arena in a army tank. That honestly is one of the most memorable parts of Monday Night War. I would say that a lot of people that were around and watching wrestling back then remember seeing that happen. And it was a very interesting thing to happen. And no matter what side you chose, no matter what side you picked, which I was more preferable of WCW a lot of times because of like the Cruiserweight division and when Chris Jericho was there and the Cruiserweight title. I loved the history behind WCW coming from NWA and that they had the Cruiserweights, which was a lack in WWF. They still to this day now they do have more cruiserweight or lightweight people coming in and showcasing them more, but back then there was the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship that you rarely on occasion saw on television being defended. So that's why I loved watching WCW a lot back then. It's just overall the debate, it was really interesting, and I gained a lot of respect for Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff out of this DVD for the simple fact of, they, at least from what we can tell, they sat down and they were 100% completely honest. They didn't make it a debate and argue about it or who won. Obviously, like I said, we all know who won. But there was no arguing, no bickering like a normal debate back and forth. It was, the only back and forth was telling, okay, well, Eric, during WCW's time, this happened. So what was the behind the scenes of it? And then in reaction, Chris Jericho would go back and then ask Bruce Pritchard, well, during that same time, how did you guys react to it or something like that? And that was about the extent of it. It was just a great storytelling history of wrestling that I think no one should miss out on. And the people that did miss Monday Night Wars and haven't been able to see Monday Night Wars, and obviously, when I want to say Monday Night Wars, I say unedited Monday Night Wars, because unfortunately, with the WWE Network, a lot of stuff has been edited, cut out, redone, reclipped, and taken out that you're not going to see today, that the people that were watching Monday Night Wars happening as it was unfolding actually got to see unedited what really was happening on TV. And so it was just overall, this DVD is great. It tells the history of it, Like I said, I gained respect for Eric Bischoff. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I want to say there is a podcast out, and I should have checked before I started recording, but I want to say I think it's called 83 Weeks or something like that, and that is still out and I believe they're still putting out episodes as of today. It's of Eric Bischoff, along with, there is another person on there, and I can't remember who it is. And anyways, that's really not the important part, but it's interesting because that 83 weeks or whatever the name of the podcast was, I'm sure you can search it, go to Google or go to a podcast app and search like 83 weeks or even Eric Bischoff, and it will come up. That happened before this debate had happened, and leading up to this debate actually was that podcast, and that podcast talks about Eric Bischoff will sit down, and it's generally an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, I think maybe even close to 3, and he goes back talking about Monday Night Wars, specific weeks that happened, or even a pay-per-view, or specifically when they brought in a wrestler, what was really happening and behind the scenes, and how they signed that wrestler to a contract, stuff like that. So it's interesting that podcast can coincide greatly with this DVD if you want to go back and relive the history of WCW. Unfortunately, there's not a podcast that I know that is really from a wrestler side, or even someone that was like in head charge from WWF back then, that tells the side of WWF. So unfortunately, you're not going to get that side as much, but with WCW, with the history of WCW, you can, which I think is great, knowing the history of WCW, especially because they're no longer in business, and you can at least learn kind of what was happening with WCW and where it brought us today to wrestling, and where obviously that WWE is the main company out there now. Now there's like AEW, there's Impact, which AKA was NWA TNA, that started back, I want to say, around 2001, 2002, doing weekly pay-per-views, now named Impact, which has really went downhill. But there's still, to this day, not really been competition for WWE like back when Monday Night Wars was happening. So it's just great to go back and relive this, and them tell about when DX, there was antics of DX, and going towards picking at WCW. It was really interesting because what Bruce Pritchard talked about, and I had never heard this story before, that he had mentioned that when Bret Hart was leaving to WCW, Hogan's contract was up in WCW at that point, and they were actually looking at bringing Hogan back to WWF, and he was going to be possibly the head of D-Generation X, which, if that happened, it would... I don't even know where we would be today. It would have been weird. It's just like little tad bits in here on the DVD that are told by Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff in general, and it's overall just real interesting side stories that you'll get about what was happening versus it be main storyline-ish, or when Razor Ramon, aka now Scott Hall, which is his real name Scott Hall, and Diesel, aka Kevin Nash, real name Kevin Nash, was brought from WWF to WCW, and how that kind of really hurt WWF at that time. And because Scott Hall kept that whole toothpick and hey yo part of his gimmick, which was Razor Ramon, there was like a lawsuit going towards WCW saying that they were stealing the Razor Ramon character. So they talk about that on here. It's just every little bit, just overall of this DVD, I would say was great, and there is no reason not to pick up this DVD. If you go to rfvideo.com and search, because it was put out by RF Video, go to rfvideo.com and search Monday Night Wars Debate. It'll come up. I think it might be 10 or 12 bucks. I can't even remember what the cost of it was for me, but it was just, overall, this is a great wrestling DVD telling the history of Monday Night Wars between two guys that were higher up, that were in charge at that point, not two lower guys that seen this or that but really weren't involved in it too much. It's the two guys that were actually mainly in charge at that time of these promotions, whether it be writing the storylines or the president of the company. And just overall, it's great to see them sit down and civilly talk about Monday Night Wars and not argue about it and say, oh, well, WCW was winning during this time, and blah, 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 or WWF was winning during this time, blah, blah, blah. It's a great overall DVD. I think the runtime is about 2.5 to 3-ish hours, which seems kind of long once you get entangled in the story of it and just get right into the dirt of it. It seems like it actually goes too fast and it leaves you wanting for more. So overall, I would say this DVD right here, Monday Night Wars, the Monday Night Wars Debate, featuring Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard, along with Chris Jericho, is just overall a great DVD. I would say this is probably about, I'll do a 5-star scale, and I would say this is a 4.5 star. I would call it more a documentary. So it would almost be labeled more like a documentary. So I would give it a 4.5 star because it just gets right into the dirt of those two promotions and what was going on overall and gives you that great storyline. So if I was you guys, I would go to RF Video, go ahead, search Monday Night Wars Debate, and pick this up as soon as you can, especially before it sells out, because I know it has started selling like hotcakes, so a lot of people are wanting to see it. So go ahead and pick up a copy at rfvideo.com. And just this overall great DVD. Not much more what I can say about it. And then just this has been another review for Wrestling Collector Zone. Alright, if there is a wrestling DVD out there right now that you know I can get my hands on at least, or that you've seen me unbox and you're wanting me to do a review sooner than later on, please go ahead, feel free to post below asking me to do that. And if it's a DVD that I don't have, right now, if you know where to pick it up from, just go ahead and let me know in the comments where to pick it up from, and I will pick that DVD up and do a review over it. And this was another review by Wrestling Collector Zone. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's get to 100 subscribers. Start doing them giveaways. Thanks for watching tonight, and you guys have a great day. That's Wrestling Collector.